And so you were a porn star one time. That's amazing.
Yeah, back in the 90s.
You really described it very well in your tape. No regrets about that?
No, I mean, a lot of people want to, pretend to be something they're not, or, act like they don't look at porn. And if you don't look at porn, you're a guy, something wrong. I mean, it's just obvious. You're gonna look at a woman, dude. I look at women all. I mean, it's not like I stopped looking at women. So when people say that, and then you sit around and watch it, and you judge me, well, then it wouldn't work if you didn't watch it.
Yeah.
So at the time I was young, I was 21. I had just got out of YA. I had did 2 years and 6 months in YA from 18 to 21. I hadn't had any sex with any girls. And so I fantasized in there of getting out, and I used to look at these magazines. I said, man, I could be a porn star and make a lot of money. And I found out you don't make a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, I did it for a little while, and it was just something that I said I was gonna do, and I did, and I got it out my system.
How many years did you do it for?
90, 95, 96, and then a couple years, and from like 99 or 98 to 2000.
And you didn't make a lot of money?
It's not money like I consider a lot of money. Know what I know now about money, and even after I've did it all this time, and I see where these porn star guys are now, man, them guys is broke.
Yeah.
I'm talking about money. I'm talking about having 10, 20 million in your account. Ain't no porn star gonna have that kind of money. You work for every scene. You don't get SAG money. You're not getting residual income.
Oh.
You're not making, you're not making no money. Even the girls, you make the money, they spend it, and then now everybody's broke. So
Yeah.
my thing is, once I started seeing that picture, I'm like, that's not for me.
So were you doing it just for the sex rather than for the money?
No, it was probably a combination of both, but initially I was thinking, okay, I could build it into a business, but I didn't have that access to like the behind the scenes stuff, the putting together production company. I didn't know anything about that when I was doing it. Had I known more about that, maybe I would have thought about, oh man, creating a company outside the United States, setting up a server, get my own, creating my own web channel, something like that. But I wasn't thinking on that level. And if you're not doing it at that level, it's not worth it.
In your video, you talked about how much you love sex when you were doing the porn stuff. What made you love it so much?
Just like any other man loves sex. I mean, when you don't have a woman in your life, when you're deprived, see, people out here, guys take women for granted. A lot of guys treat women bad. They don't understand, And the thing about porn is like, everybody's there consensual. It's not you're not there against your will.
Yeah.
And when you talk about like embracing a female, a lot of guys don't know how to treat a woman. So for me, my personality was different, but I wasn't like these guys. A lot of guys get into the business because they're pervs. They can't get a woman outside the industry.
Yeah.
I had women, I never had a problem having a girlfriend or picking up a woman. So I really seen like, for me, I jumped into the business, but once I realized what the business was about, it wasn't really cohesive with my personality, because a lot of guys, I didn't vibe with them because they weren't my type of guys I would hang out with outside. Right. And so I just kind of dabbled in the business, and while I was dabbling, I was doing other stuff. So it wasn't like something I really kind of totally focused on. It was like a passing moment in my life, but I was trying to figure out what was my next move.
I got you. If it wasn't for sex, would you have anything to do with a woman?
What do you mean? Yeah, as far as emotional?
If it wasn't for sex, would you have anything to do with a woman?
I don't understand
how.
Like,
would you be with a woman?
If I wasn't having sex with her?
Yeah.
As far as conversation, yeah. I mean, it's not like every woman you got to sleep with them. You know what I mean? It's not like I treat women like sex objects. I've had a lot of, as far as conversation, even getting out of prison, just because it's good sex doesn't mean I'm gonna marry a woman. See, for me, you got to stimulate my mind. You got to have conversation. You got to be intelligent.
What type of conversation would a man have with a woman that would stimulate his mind?
Goals. What's your future hold? Whether or not that woman believes in your goals and your vision, whether or not a woman says, hey, you know what, you said that you want to move into a house on the hills, you know what, I'm going to check and see how much, it would cost for us to get a house at 2,000 square feet, blah, blah, blah. A woman who puts your work in, oh, baby, you don't have health insurance, let me show you how to do this, or, let me get you an account. You're trying to start a business, let me help you get your finances together. A woman who's going to put into your pot. If you're not putting into your pot, why am I investing time with you? If all you want to do is hang out and have sex all day, that ain't nothing. You can get that all day. There's a lot of hot chicks that'll give you that. But you find a woman who's going to have your back, who's going to help you build a future.
Yeah. Do you miss having sex with a lot of women?
Nah, not really.
Not really?
Nah. I mean, it's not something, it's just reckless.
It is.
It's reckless, man. I mean, to get you caught up. I mean, why would you?
Yeah.
You know, you got to have control over your laurels. You can't just be somebody. Oh my! Every time you see a woman, you know what I mean. You're just lusting. That's a guy who has no control over himself.
But you were like that at one time, right?
No, not really. I was never like that. I always
But it
had
sounds
control.
like in your video, it sounds like you've been having sex forever.
No, I'm saying in the porn industry, you have sex because it's scheduled.
Oh, I got you.
It's scheduled. When I wasn't in the porn, I wasn't out chasing women all day. I was getting money. I was hustling. So I wasn't focused every day on waking up, you know, looking at porn. That wasn't, no, if I got a call, okay, there's a job, that was cool. But I wasn't one of those guys. I could balance myself out. It wasn't like I was to the point where every time I seen a woman, oh my God, I was professional, shake your hand, go do my thing. I wasn't that type of dude.
When you were young, were you selling drugs or something?
When I was 15, I was selling crack.
How did you get into that? I remember you mentioning that.
People around my neighborhood were hustling, and I wanted to make money. I wanted to have, you know, be able to buy things and do things. So I felt like that would give me what I needed to do at that time.
And so, are you over all that now?
Of course, if you elevate it.
You elevated, and how did you how did you get over all that? And I'm gonna get into the new you in a minute. How did you become the new you? If there's such a word.
You find yourself. I mean, at some point, you got to figure out your spirituality. If you don't have spirituality, then you're not ever going to find yourself.
So you were walking down the road one day and you decide, you know what, I got to find myself.
No, in prison.
You decided that in prison?
When I got locked up in the bank robbery, that was the closing chapter. That was when I felt I had an epiphany. When I was being handcuffed on the beach in Ventura, I realized that the game was over.
Good, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about prison reform, and they're letting inmates out of prison and all that stuff. Is there such a thing as prison reform in your mind?
If you want to reform, I mean, just letting a guy out of prison doesn't mean it's going to reform anything.
Yeah.
It's what you're doing while you're in there. A lot of people, if you open the doors right now and said you're free, what would they do? If you've been playing dominoes, softball, gambling, shooting dope all day, what do you do?
Yeah.
You haven't prepared your mind. You haven't took any courses. You're not studying. You have to train yourself. It's like anything else. You can't wake up one day. I've seen people get out and they get home and they're like, oh, I'm out. So what are you going to do? Get a job application. You know, you're not prepared.
A lot of them end up repeating it, repeating
because
the
they
crime
get institutionalized.
Too. They've been what?
Institutionalized.
Oh, I see.
Institutionalized is when you do that program, and that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing in prison that you have to avoid is not letting your mind buy into that program. It's just like buying into a program out here. People on the street are institutionalized. You see people all day out here, they buy into the program that's fed to them, and they can't think outside of that.
What do you mean by the program in prison?
Program in prison is getting up, doing what they tell you to do, going and working in there, a regular, you know, going and you know, playing the game as far as you sit over here, you're going to play this game at this time, you're going to talk to these guys, you're going to, you know, buff your cell out. I never buffed my floors in prison, why? This ain't mine. This is the government stuff.
Yeah.
I never went to prison and got a job that paid high paying. What high paying job is there in prison? $3 an hour. I mean, like, you really think, if you were going to do that, you should have did that on the street.
Yeah.
So my whole focus was, I don't care about prison money. I want to make money with my mind. So my whole thing was, I did legal work and I studied to build myself up because I knew if I got out, the money that made in prison wasn't going to do anything for me. It was my mind that was going to get me ahead.
So is it the responsibility of the prison to do that, or the person?
It should be the responsibility of the prison because they're paying all the money. If it's costing $70-something thousand a year to house an inmate, why wouldn't you invest in making that person better so when they get out, they can become more productive? See, if they do that, that lessens the use for guards, prisons, and prison is an industrial complex. It makes money. They make money off recidivism. Now, if you go to Sweden and some of the Danish countries, they have work release programs. They have dorm settings that's not violent. If you're violent, you want to gangbang, you go to another prison. If they had that here and people went out and got educated, people would be mad because they feel like, well, you got in trouble. Why should you get an education? So that's why people talk all that stuff about they want reform. They really don't, because now you got people, when you get out of prison, and if you're doing better than them or you're doing better than the guard, they get mad.